crazy 800-pound silverback
What's
bursting
wrong with
through the
people?
tree. Samoan babies that can run fast. I mean, that's what's going to survive.
All right, guys, so we're back with another episode of Into the Roganverse, and this one is going to be a little bit different. I think there's going to be some high-level conversations here that I am in no way, shape, or form supposed to be in here, but it'll be fun, right? Let's just go into it and let's start reacting to some of these clips, and let's start the show. All right, let's start with the first one here. So let's get to the first clip. This clip is called "Everyone is Now Dumber for Having to Have Listened to That." So it's Tucker Carlson here and Joe Rogan. It seems like the subreddit does not like Tucker Carlson one bit.
If evolution is real, and if there is this concept...
Oh, and they're also talking about evolution in this clip. Might as well tell you that I'm a atheist and I don't believe in God. So fair warning to you people that are already gonna talk. You know, you're already gonna shit on me in the comments. So I'm gonna give you a warning.
If evolution is real, and if there is this constant... I don't know, but it's visible. Like, you can measure it in certain animals.
You can measure adaptation.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence that in fact, I think we've kind of given up on the idea of evolution, the theory of evolution.
Yeah, the only people that have given up the theory of evolution is people that believe in God.
The theory of evolution as articulated by Darwin is like kind of not true. Right?
In what sense?
Well, in the most basic sense, the idea that, you know, all life emerged from a single cell organism and over time, and there would be a fossil record of that, and there's not. And
there's not a fossil record of transitionary species, like species that are adapting to its environment.
You can see the evolution of humans, how they become throughout the what do you call it? The millennia. Their skull has changed throughout time. Their brain capacity has changed. So there is an evolution of that.
Tons of record of adaptation, and you see it in your own life. I mean, I have a lot of dogs. I see adaptation in dogs, you know, through the litter to litter. But no, there's no evidence at all zero, that, you know, people, you know.
Yeah, that's a bold claim right there. None of it. None. You can't see it. I mean, he's trying to fool you guys into thinking that, oh yeah, it's like the thing like, oh, there's still monkeys around. And, you know, apparently they say we've evolved from monkeys. Why are there still monkeys around? That's like one of the things that they say.
Evolve seamlessly from a single cell amoeba. No, there's not. There's no chain in the fossil record of that at all. And that's why you don't actually hear people, you hear them make reference to evolution, because the theory of adaptation is clearly, obviously true. But Darwin's theory's totally that's why it's still a theory almost 200 years later, you know.
Is evolution a proven fact? Evolution is both a fact and a theory. Evolution is widely observable in laboratory and natural populations as they change over time. The fact that we need annual flu vaccines is one example of observational evolution. There we go. So you can see it, because that is true. We do need a flu shot once every 2 or 3 years, because diseases and viruses evolve same as us, right?
No, we have not found that at all. And I can't even guess. I mean, I have my own theories on it, but they're not proven.
What are your theories?
God created people, you know, distinctly, and animals. I mean, I think what every person on Earth thought until the mid-19th century, actually.
Right, but
it's not a new idea.
I think a lot of people think that theories are just like guessing, but a theory is a scientific explanation of how things happened, is what I remember from school. What they told me about is that, yeah, like, I think he's trying to say that there's there's a theory about God existing. And I mean, yeah, sure, there are theories, but they're not scientific. Not more scientific than actually seeing evolution and seeing there's different things that have evolved, like how I said, like, you know, the skeletal structure, within humans and animals and insects, and how they've adapted to change with their environment, right? So there is proof of that. And Tucker Carlson, someone who is religious, will not see that. I mean, I remember going to school and there was people that were heavily religious, and when, you know, the evolution conversation came up in school, they would leave the class because they don't want to hear that. They don't want to you know, talk about something that they don't feel comfortable with, and also kind of explains away their theory on God. Yeah, so that's all I gotta say about that. And also that laugh in the end, man, that's the worst laugh I've ever heard in my life. That's a rich man's laugh right there.
Right, but
It's not a new idea.
All right, so let's get to the next clip. We got Bobby Lee discovers the history of slavery in Korea. So here's Bobby Lee, Andrew Santino, and Doc. I forgot his last name. So Bobby thinks that the Koreans never did slavery, and wait until he hears about the actual truth. So let's play this clip.
Some societies, like Koreans, they might have a God complex, but they don't have a history of oppressing another group of people.
Each other, right?
Are you out of your mind?
What the?
What do you mean?
You don't think Asians had? They didn't oppress.
Koreans didn't have slaves. We didn't fly.
Most civilizations, they had slavery. A lot of them did, and most of them are not even safe from, you know, the topic. So it's a very high assumption for Bobby to think that. But of course, he's in a comedy podcast shooting the shit. I wouldn't expect him to die on that hill. So yeah.
Did Koreans have slaves?
Korea had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history. Holy shit!
You guys are scumbags.
We're scumbags.
I mean, not only it wasn't even a little bit. It was like bombastically, or the worst of the worst in slavery were the Koreans, and who would have thought of that, right? And yes, it probably was their own people that they enslaved, and other people too. It goes to show how speaking out of your ass can kind of really make you look like a dummy. But look, it's a comedy podcast. It makes sense, right? Like, and then once, you know, Andrew and Doc were like, "Oh, really? Pull that shit up, Jamie." And there we go. We have it there. Let me know what you guys think about this. I thought it was kind of funny. A little bit of a funny little clip here. Let's get to the next clip. We got Graham attempts to prove big archaeology is real, compares it to Big Pharma, but his gotcha falls completely flat. Let's watch that.
Do you believe that there's such a thing? You know, we've all heard the word Big Pharma. Do you think there's such a thing as big archaeology?
No.
Oh, how odd. Because here you are, Flint Dibble.
Now, I would like to think that Graham is, you know, big archaeology, right? I mean, this guy, you know, he's on Netflix, and he's on these podcasts, and
January 23rd, this is 2023.
It's scare quotes. It's sarcasm.
The reality is we live in a period where we're seeing an increased distrust of scholars.
Seems like he does not understand sarcasm.
And scientists.
Yes.
As an archaeologist, I think we have to respond by engaging with the public, and we do. In many ways, the reach of big archaeology is way beyond that of Graham Hancock. Think about the millions of school children and parents who visit museums, etc., etc. You just told me you don't believe in the big archaeology, but right here you've said there is a big archaeology.
That's in quotes for sarcasm.
Oh, sorry, you lost me there.
I mean, he already told them right away before he even started talking about it, like, "Hey, this is sarcasm, bro. What are you doing?" And then he does this. I would think that he's big arch, right? He's in big arch. Let's get to the next clip. This one's called "We Still Don't Know Where Nuclear Technology Comes From." So this is Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson talking about nuclear technology. This would be fun.
Years more advanced than us. How much would we be able to detect?
Well, so I think we're pointing to the same question. I mean, I have no
Right.
doubt that the U.S. government has technology that we don't know the details of. That makes sense.
Sure.
but like, where did it come from?
Right.
If my understanding is correct, and maybe I could simplify this, nuclear technology comes from the Earth, right? Earth is the one that supplies us with nuclear technology, right? Like radioactive material.
I'm not even sure this is a separate question, but related. I'm not sure we really know where nuclear technology came from. Actually,
Really?
Yes.
Like the Manhattan Project?
Yeah, like we know the Manhattan, and we know something about the Manhattan Project, but like where exactly did that, came from Germany. German scientists were working on it. Okay.
Nuclear energy and how it was discovered, I'm sure it was by accident, right? Like, I'm pretty sure the first person that touched, or pricked their finger on some nuclear radioactive thing, it was the end of them, right? Like, you find out from trials and mistakes.
The one it's a separate conversation, but the one person I know who's really pushed others, writing a book on it, who's a trustworthy person and a friend of mine, I know you know him, said to me, actually, I spent a year working on this, and the closer I got to like, okay, but what's the genesis? Like, where did this? What was the Isaac Newton apple on the head? Oh, gravity's real moment for fission. Not clear. Weird. I don't know the answer. But here's the point. Clearly, government has technology that we're not read in on.
Right.
Of course.
There was nothing said here. Nothing was said in this clip. What was that? Scientists have developed technology to use this nuclear energy so, we can, not use, fossil fuel or any other alternative energy and use this kind of energy, nuclear energy, which, is quite dangerous to master, but also can serve humans well for a long period of time. Like, have you ever seen freaking Fallout? And like, like most things that we have in this world, it's coming from Earth. And for Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan to just talk about and question it, like, just maybe also, I don't know, think, like, I don't know, maybe expand, brainstorm. But yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got. I think I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this. This is kind of freaking stupid. Tucker Carlson is a dumb man. All right, let's get to the next clip. This one is called Graham Glasses. Let's face it, he lost today. So he debated this other guy. I don't know who they are, but it seems like the Joe Rogan subreddit has kind of goofed on Graham Hancock for seemingly used like freaking 5 different pairs of glasses, which I don't know why you need so many pairs of glasses, but let's watch this little tiny clip here.
Quebec. How do I search Natufian?
That's
there,
one.
There are
that's
many
2.
Predecessor cultures. The
Okay,
question
that's
is,
3.
Worked in stone.
Who worked in stone? The question is,
Okay,
when
there was
did
another
this
one.
stone work?
That's
If you look
4.
at the, research by Huckley and Gopher, for example.
Oh no, again?
And of the introduction of
Okay, that's
introduction of
5.
geometric elements into the stonework in
5 pairs of glasses. So is it like, so it's 5 different pairs, or is it just 1 or 2 and he just switches them from time to time? Like, what is this? Is this a bit from Graham here? Or, I mean, this man is supposedly smart. I mean, I have maybe like 2 pairs, right? One for work and one for home. But that's because of, different environments. But this man is in the same place, changing different pairs of glasses every 2 seconds. What the heck is going on here? Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you guys think that Graham lost the debate? Do you think this man needs so many glasses? Yeah, let me know, guys. Okay, so let's get to the next clip. This one's called Dr. Phil Explains to Former JRE Bill Maher Why He Is Truly Alone. Let's play this clip.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think all that stuff is sublimation for sex. But that's me. I always looked at society and thought, oh, people at golf. I mean, no one really could enjoy it, but okay. I just feel like if there's things that people do to either get away from their spouse or because they're not getting whatever charges them up, in a marriage. I just, not because the people aren't great people, it's just because the idea of being with the same person, it's got to rob you of like something that was there at the beginning.
So if I get this right, he says the reason why people get away from their wives is because they're not happy, so they have to go somewhere else, like golfing, right? Or, you know, if you're a modern man, you play your video games, you go out there and play with your friends, you know, play some b-ball or whatever. But you know, Bill Maher, he's not married. He doesn't seem like he has the desire to be married because he doesn't feel comfortable with being, you know, a husband and having a spouse. Seems like that's kind of what I'm understanding from him. And that's understandable if you don't want to get married or nothing, but also, you know, living your life alone is kind of sad.
That you then have to watch die. And then you get like snippy with each other, even though it's not each other's fault. Because you resent that person from, it's blocking that thing in your life that you know somewhere in your mind was the thing that at one point made you feel the best. Better than golf, better than bowling, better than whatever fucking thing is sublimating it.
Well, I still don't know why you haven't gotten married, but I am fully understanding why nobody has ever married you. I totally get that 100%.
Do you really think
they'd fucking kill themselves?
Do you really think a million bitches haven't tried?
Oh, I'm certain some of them have entertained it, and then about a week into it thought, oh my God.
Trust me.
They're like, man, this man is miserable. He doesn't even want to spend his time with me. Why am I here? Like, Bill, this is Bill's, I think this is his own conflict, right? A lot of people have this. I mean, I've had it when I was even younger. But there's also, you know, with friends too, you do get tired of them if you're just hanging around with them all the time. That's just a normal thing, right? And that's why you go out to golf and you go out to play, you know, a couple of games here and there. But that doesn't mean that you can't live a happy married life. But hey, look, if you don't want to be married, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to be married. This is kind of a personal thing, and Dr. Phil kind of, you know, he did roast him here for implying that, you know, because I'm sure Dr. Phil is married and being like, you know, I do like golfing, but I just don't like to golf because I get away from my wife. That just isn't true, right? I don't think that that's a true statement. And, you know, Bill's just projecting here his own insecurities on why he isn't married because he's not happy with being with somebody. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Let me know what you guys think about this. Is Dr. Phil right? This is the only time I'm gonna be giving Dr. Phil some props here. Let me know what you guys think. Let's get to the next clip. This one's called Jon Stewart Has a Golden Take on Cancel Culture.
This is now, John, are like Bill Maher, for example. When it comes to the culture wars, he expresses his frustration over and over again. I can't say this. We're limited in saying that. We have to wear a gag, and this kind of expression. Comedians are talking all the time about, well, I feel I can't do this. I can't say that.
No.
How do you come down on this?
All the people who talk about cancel culture. Here's a nice absurdity.
Okay.
People that talk about cancel culture never seem to shut the fuck up about it. Like, there's more speech now than ever before. It's not.
I mean, look, he's right about that. Back in the days, you'll get arrested for cussing, right? To say now that, oh, we can't say whatever we want is crazy, right? It's crazy.
You can't say. It's that when you say it, look, the internet has democratized criticism. What do we do for a living? We talk shit. We criticize, we postulate, we opine, we make jokes, and now other people are having their say. And that's not cancel culture, that's relentlessness. We live in relentless culture. And the system of the internet and all those other things are incentivized to find the pressure points of that and exacerbate it.
That is a fair argument. You know, people get mad when you don't let them talk their talk, right? But it's also part of my, free speech or whatever, for me to say my criticism. John is right. Some people don't want to be criticized for what they say on stage, particularly a joke that doesn't hit. And, they'll go up and on their Twitter and say that, hey, people want to cancel me for this edgy joke I made. Really? Are they really trying to cancel you, or just people don't like the joke that you said and they're criticizing you? And, they have, as much of a right to say that they don't like it as much as you had the right to say your shitty joke, right? And to be criticized, for it, it's perfectly fair. But to say that you're getting canceled for a joke, nobody really gets canceled for a joke. The only person that probably did get quote unquote canceled was probably like Shane Gillis when he did that little Asian joke. He was playing a character. But then, is he really canceled? Look at him. Is he canceled now? No, he went back to SNL. They forgave him. They said, hey, there was a big misunderstanding, and we move on. But to say that, we can't talk whatever we want to talk about. Yeah, try to say that in another country, right? Where you talk about their leaders, their presidents. You'll die. They'll kill you. Like this is the only place that, one of the only places, there's probably other places as well, that they're fair and they don't come after you for your free speech, right? Compared to, Russia or, a South American country or in Africa, who knows, right? There is consequences in what you say, and that's what it is, right? Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you think that Jon Stewart is correct? Let's get to the next clip. This one's called "Whatever Happened to Wrinks" announcement that he was going to be a weekly regular in Teggsas on Louder with Grifter. Eesh. So this is Anthony Jeselnik on the Jeselnik Rosenthal Vanity Project podcast, talking about Steven Crowder and how much of a big of a loser he was in comedy. Let's watch this clip here.
Who's that fucking loser who's going through the worst divorce of all time right now? Steven Crowder.
I've never even heard of that guy.
So lucky. He's like, if Joe Rogan seems too confusing, they like Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder tried to be a stand-up. He was a stand-up and was the worst stand-up of all time. And then was like on Fox News as the funny one. And he got fired because they were like, you're not funny at all. And now he's going through like an insane divorce and losing all kinds of money. And it's hilarious. But I was at the Comedy Cellar when he auditioned. The owner had seen him on Fox and was like, I'd like a conservative voice. And then I got to watch him just eat the hottest of hot dicks for 5 minutes on a Sunday. And every time I see him being like, democracy, I laugh thinking about what a fucking loser he is. We got to get him on the pod, Aaron. Got to get Tucker. I want Steven Crowder's wife on the pod with the kids.
Okay, so let's talk about him being a comedian, stand-up comedian. I think it's very widely known that he was not funny. I mean, there was a time that he got shit on by Amy Schumer, of all people, for not being funny at all.
He wants to be a star and hates everyone who took that risk and he didn't. He calls himself a comedian but doesn't perform. That's how the Schumer thing started. I would not let him call himself a comedian on my show, and Amy knew that. I hated him for saying he performs. What Gutfeld is alluding to here is an old episode from his show where Steven and Amy Schumer were both guests, and as you can probably imagine, having these two in a room together didn't go well.
And you slip by the dirty comedian thing, but honestly, you call yourself a comedian, but you don't do it that much. Like, I go fishing a couple times a year, but I don't introduce myself on TV as a fisherman.
After that day he got roasted by Amy Schumer, he just had a vendetta towards her.
From that moment, Steven would make it a priority to slam Amy Schumer from the comfort of his own studio any chance he got, in a crusade that you cannot tell me wasn't a tiny bit personal.
By the way, Amy Schumer, you're a fat role model, taking pride in being a fat bag of potatoes.
Who's that fucking loser who's going through the worst divorce of all time right now? Steven Crowder.
Divorcing his wife, being that he is this kind of guy where, he doesn't accept being divorced. Like, he doesn't want divorce to be an option, right? Like, he wants to be married by all means, which is crazy to think.
If you want to get married, you should get married. And if you want to get divorced, if you're already married, you should be allowed to get divorced without having to prove that your spouse committed some kind of fault. I know that this sounds really crazy, apparently to some right-wingers who want to do away with so-called no-fault divorce. And this all stemmed because of Steven Crowder bemoaning the fact that his wife, she can just choose to get divorced in the state of Texas.
This was not my choice. My then wife decided that she didn't want to be married anymore. And in the state of Texas, that is completely permitted.
But if you call yourself a small government individual, if you call yourself a libertarian, if you call yourself for freedom and liberty and all of those things, why would you want to restrict individuals saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to be married anymore. It is yet another attempt from Republicans to control women. No-fault divorce obviously should remain legal.
And also, yeah, the title says Wrinks announcement. Wrinks meaning Brian Callen. There was this kind of thing that was happening that he was going to join the Crowder team.
All right, so a few weeks ago, I made a video talking about how Steven Crowder has been humiliating Brian Callen, and I played this clip that Steven posted to his Twitter account of this video where Brian is dressed up as a cow and some guy is spanking him while he's going moo, and I was concerned. I was like, all right, this is weird, whatever's going on here, especially after all this stuff that's come out about Steven Crowder. So I talked about that in a video, and then during a recent Fighter and the Kid podcast that they titled Steven Crowder Made Brian Callen's Mother Cry, Brian brought up my video, and he said that's what made his mother cry. She watched that video, and I guess she got really concerned about him. So if that's true, if I made his mom cry, I'd like to apologize. I'm sorry, Mrs. Callen.
And he was going to move to Texas. And, you know, after the whole divorce thing came out, it slowly started to dwindle. And we have not seen Brian Callen after that. And we have not heard about Steven Crowder. And maybe Brian, you know, signed, you know, an NDA. It looks like Steven Crowder doesn't like people having free speech, right? I mean, we saw that with, what's his name? Not Gay Jared. Like,
I'm currently being legally abused and intimidated into silence by a former employer. This has been going on for a while now, and I simply cannot live in darkness for another day. But I am asking for your help to fight back. I signed this separation agreement, an NDA, containing a strict and very broad non-disparagement clause many years ago. I voluntarily left my job after deciding I could no longer put myself or my growing family through the toxic and abusive work environment I had endured for years.
Even till today, like he can't talk about anything, and it was being pressed to not work certain places and not talk about him. And look, Steven Crowder is one of these guys that, you know, will preach it but doesn't practice it, right? He's just one of those guys, and I always knew that guy is not genuine. He's not a good guy, and he's a psycho. Let's be honest. Steven Crowder is crazy, and he's got a big ego, and he doesn't do well in debates. He's not really good. He likes to pick on the weak because he knows he can, you know, outsmart people who he can outsmart, and not talk to people that he doesn't really want to because he knows he's not going to look good.
I'm very genuinely unsure what it is about Sam Seder that strikes so much fear into Steven Crowder, but by the time the H3 debate finally rolled around, Steven's worst nightmare finally came to fruition. And I do mean nightmare.
Oh, there he is. Oh no, Sam Seder. What a fucking nightmare. I had no idea this was going to happen. I thought Ethan was a stand-up guy. This is where we are. Yeah, I told Dave, remember I told you? I said I guarantee you he's going to do anything he can to avoid the debate.
That's all I got to say about that. I mean, Anthony Jeselnik, props to him for talking about Steven and how much of a piece of shit he is. Let me know what you guys think about this. Let's get to the next clip. This one is called Joe Finally Speaks on Sheldon Johnson's Murder Charge. Now, if you guys don't remember, Joe brought on this guy called Sheldon Johnson, convicted or was arrested for allegedly like hurting somebody during like a armed robbery or something like that. And the next day or the same day, he like pretty much like up them.
He's completely changed. He's turned his life around, etc. Sheldon Johnson goes right back to his old ways, unfortunately. So here's the details of the story. Warning, it's pretty gruesome. Basically, cops found a dismembered body in a Bronx apartment where Sheldon Johnson, basically, it sounds like, went to an old enemy's place, held him up at gunpoint, and then killed him. Neighbors told cops the victim was heard desperately pleading with his killer shortly before 2 shots rang out in the apartment near Ogden Avenue. "Please don't," the doomed man was heard saying. "I have a family."
Damn, this guy did not care. Like, in a freaking whole ass apartment, like, you're gonna hear that. People are gonna hear that. The people that live in an apartment are gonna hear a couple of gunshots and somebody yelling for their life.
Sheldon.
And we haven't heard anything, from Joe Rogan until now.
Well, they don't have slavery anymore, but you know what they do? They lock up black men for almost nothing and then force them to be slaves in prison.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but also everybody else too. It's that's where in jail, that's where slavery is legalized, which is sad.
Find ways to prosecute. Look, we
Illegal
know today.
marijuana.
I've done a ton of podcasts with Josh Dubin, who used to work with the Innocence Project, and now he's got his own thing with the Ike Perlmutter Center.
So yeah, he was brought on by somebody else because he thought that he was wrongfully convicted. I think the problem was that they gave him too many years. Like, the punishment was too severe. I think what was the problem?
They find people that are wrongfully convicted and help them get out.
Yeah.
We've had a bunch of those guys come on the podcast,
Yeah.
including one guy who came on who was actually guilty.
But in hindsight now, I think he should have just stayed there.
He was guilty before, and we knew he was guilty, but he got 50 years.
Right.
And then he was talking about how he turned his life around in his, like, a month after he was on the podcast?
Yeah.
How long was it after he was on the podcast? 2
Yeah.
months? Maybe 2 months? Cut some dude's head off.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a blonde wig, and homie didn't understand.
And eventually is seen trying to leave with a blonde wig.
Oh, I thought that. I was like, we're looking at the hoodie, and I was like, that's not a blonde wig, that's a hoodie, but this is a blonde wig. Dude, what? Why that wig? That's the most obvious, most suspicious thing a black person can do. Yeah, like he came out with a freaking He-Man wig, thinking that he was a whole different person. It's crazy.
New HD security cameras. Like, this dude put a blonde wig on. They got crystal clear footage of him with his goatee on, wearing a blonde wig, carrying some dude's head.
Johnson did not care about that, and he was caught on security surveillance footage, walking out of the apartment in and out, and eventually trying to get materials to clean up the mess, clean up the crime scene. He brought a blue bin.
How sold were you in the room with him? How good was he at selling himself as this reformed person?
Well, what does it mean? Okay, so he didn't kill anybody in jail, and then he's out now, and he's got the...
Okay, also, he said that when he was in jail, he was basically like a leader there, which is... He's trying to... I feel like he's trying to downplay it a little bit, but there are certain things that was said in that, in that podcast that were fishy.
When you listen to his explanation of what happened, why he went to jail. So he was a drug dealer.
Right.
And he had gone to jail before, and some dude owed him money. Some dude, some drug deal, and the guy was like, fuck you. So he found the guy, and he pistol whipped him.
It's kind of like Joey Diaz, if you guys remember that story.
Yeah. He was kind of a bad guy.
Yeah,
But
okay.
was that because he spent 25 fucking years in jail? Because he was 20, I think he did 25 years before they 24, before they let him out, which is an insane amount of time to be locked up in a prison and then expect to acclimate. And
So you're saying, did prison make him much worse?
Did prison make him much worse? Because it certainly can with some people.
Yeah.
But we've had people on that were innocent, and prison made them amazing.
I think a lot of people will understand that jail, especially in the U.S. system, jail can be wishy-washy with how people are supposed to be rehabbed.
I mean, something about like the constant studying and the accepting your situation in life, even though you were innocent, and then a lot.
So difficult for certain type of people to come back, and they don't have families, they don't have people that they get supported by because of what they did.
Dirty. Some people involved in prosecuting and convicting people are.
Yeah.
You remember that guy in Pennsylvania There was a guy in Pennsylvania who was a judge who went to jail because it turns out that he was getting paid to have kids arrested and sentence them into juvenile centers.
Wow.
So he was
Paid
getting
by
a
whom?
kickback.
Do
He was
we
getting
know?
kickback from the center.
Oh.
So the
There was also another thing about this one investigator in New York that was falsely imprisoning people, and some people got out. I mean, like I think 80 people or 100 people had to get like their files rechecked to see if there was any wrongdoing, and that cost like the city of New York millions and millions of dollars to do. And I mean, we see this all the time, right? Like, I understand Joe saying that there is some unfair things that happen, but yeah, like this is the sad thing in the U.S. system, that there is corruption, and it sucks.
prison guards unions work to stop marijuana laws from being
Really?
Yeah, because they want people to get arrested so that people go to jail.
Yeah.
So they have jobs, which is fucking crazy to think.
Yeah.
But private prisons make money off people being incarcerated. If you make money off a person being incarcerated, now you have an incentive for incarcerating people because they make money doing that.
And if you're a private prison, you don't even have to treat them that well because they're prisoners. Who's really going to get upset on their behalf? A few people that we're not going to take seriously. So if their conditions suck, it's prison. They're prisoners. Why do I need to treat them well?
Nobody cares.
Yeah, like when you're a prisoner, some people, say throw away the key. They should suffer, and it's like some of them, they go in there for minor offenses like marijuana charges and maybe a little bit of thievery here and there. But do they deserve to have their lives destroyed? No, of course not. Especially the ones with the weed thing, right? Like that's just outrageous. But this guy, from what Joe was trying to say is that like this guy was supposed to serve 50 years. But since he was he was behaving well, he was on good behavior, he got out in 25. Okay, I mean, that happens a lot. And, I mean, it's kind of contradicting, too, because if he was that good and he was doing so well, then why didn't the rehab, in jail help him out? Because, right, when he came back out, he just murdered somebody, which is crazy, right? But this is a problem with, the U.S., jail system, that a lot of the problems are because people are trying to make money. And in order to make money in jails is to get as many people in jail as possible. And it's a sad thing, right? It's a sad thing to see. And hopefully, in the near future, we can start changing the rules, the laws, or whatever it might be to kind of, make prisons more of a recovery, or like to make somebody better, right? Than to just make them feel like they're being punished, right? Make them be a better person for civilization or society in the future. But for right now, we have problems, and I mean, Joe did kind of give him. Joe, definitely gave Sheldon Johnson some leeway, open-mindedness on maybe this guy isn't so bad. But then you figure out that, oh shoot, this guy is pretty terrible, right? And unfortunately hindsight is 2020. So yeah, and that's it, guys. That's all I gotta say. Let me know what you guys think about that. All right, let's get to the next clip. This one's called Alex Jones, Conduit of Mysticism. Whoa. So this one is with Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson talking about Alex Jones, and Tucker thinks that Alex Jones is a mystic. He's I don't know. Let's watch the clip.
That's all we know about Alex Jones. Let's just say that's the fact set. How'd that happen?
Right. How did he do that?
No, he's channeling something.
You think
That's
so?
super. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's like no other. I mean, tell me how he did it otherwise. I've asked him about it. How did you do that? At length, he had dinner in my barn recently. We were talking about this. How'd you do that? I don't know. It just came to me. And that's real. That is real. The supernatural is real. And I don't know.
Supernatural. So you're trying to tell me that if I make that little star thing and light up a couple of candles and read a book, it's going to open up a portal to somewhere else, to the netherworld? Is that what you're telling me, Tucker? Is that what you're telling me that Alex Jones does? Or he can have a magic ball and find something there? I don't know.
I don't know why it's so hard for the modern mind, I guess because it's a materialist mind, to accept that. But what you and that's not a new phenomenon. It's happened throughout history. There are people called prophets, and there are people who were prophets who weren't called prophets, but there are people who have information or parts of information, bits of information, visions of information come to them, and then they relay it. It's not from them; they received it. This is like the one of the oldest phenomena in human history. So those people tend to be a little crazy, a little imbalanced, a little different from everybody else. Do you know what I mean? They live on locusts and honey in the wilderness. I mean, that's just like they're not like everybody else. And
I think those are called hippies.
That's clearly part of what I'm not saying that everything that Alex Jones says is a prophecy from God. It's not. But that was prophetic. And if it wasn't, tell me how it wasn't.
There's not much to get the context of what they're talking about, but I assume it's pretty dumb to say that Alex Jones is this like psychic, that he knows things and then they come out to be real. I think that's what he's trying to say. I mean, there's a couple of things that he didn't get right, and we know that cost him $1 billion, right? This is just a ridiculous thing to talk about. Mysticism, this is what spiritual people, religious people think, like how the world works, right? Like they have some secret understanding or know what's going to happen in the future. No, I mean, I think it's called guessing, right? Like you see certain technology, and some people have gotten it right from the past, right? Like, oh yeah, like when they started making the steam engines, they eventually thought that how about if we make it with gasoline? It seems like, yeah, Tucker Carlson is not an honest person and will just try to find an audience that wants to hear about bullshit, and one of them is definitely Alex Jones's audience that love hearing about mythology and conspiracy theories. And now that Tucker has been fired, he can spread and thin himself out to these different communities that he can probably snatch up. But yeah, like this is just a crazy thing. This is just so dumb. I don't know how people can like this guy and not see how much of a fake he is. Okay, let's get to the next clip. This one's called The Joe Rogan Experience. Aliens are not from outer space. They are a spiritual phenomena, I would argue interdimensional, but it does appear increasingly more likely. So another clip with Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson talking about utter let's play the clip.
And we know that there is a real effort and has been underway for a long time to keep the public from knowing about it. But that's all known. That's established. I don't think any rational person would deny that. The question is, like, what is it actually? I mean, now is sort of the point where you have to ask, like, what is this? So that's
how much of it do you think is ours?
So what they're talking about here is, UFOs. What do they call them now? UAPs, or I don't know what. Tucker's gonna say that aliens are actually interdimensional beings, which is a theory that a lot of people kind of go towards, which I don't look. It's something that we don't even know about, so I can't even say that that's it's a real thing or it's not real. We just don't know. But let's see what he thinks about this.
Well, none of it's ours.
None of it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, clearly, the U.S. government is huge. It's the largest human organization. There are, I think there are 2 million federal employees and another 10 million federal contractors, so who are effectively government employees but don't have civil service protection, for example.
So when we hear about like Area 41, they always say that not even the president knows about what's happening there because it's all classified top secret stuff. Is that true? I don't know.
It's kind of hard to overstate how big the federal government is and how well funded. And so to say the government this, the government that, no, of course, it's people within the government. But yeah, they're working on all kinds of things, obviously, that are classified.
This is a all I don't know thing, but to say that it's interdimensional thing, I don't think so, because that would be scary.
In general, no, they can't control these objects. So no, it's not American technology.
Well,
are some of these unknown flying objects maybe aircrafts from another government, like China or Russia? I don't know.
Or Russian or Chinese. It predates, all of that.
Well, some of it does, right? Like, for sure, the Kenneth Arnold sightings, that was really early on. That was like the early 1950s. He was seeing these flying saucers, these discs that were moving over mountains.
Well,
I think most of the people would think that they're extraterrestrial, right? Like from another world. Some people think that aliens are us, right? But maybe from another galaxy, or maybe from the future. But who knows, right? This is a who knows kind of thing.
Right. I mean, the prophet Ezekiel writes about it in the first chapter, Wheels in the Sky.
Yeah, that's a crazy one. Boy, when you
well,
read
it is
that,
crazy. If you read it, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
wait a minute. Spiritual phenomenon because they were in the Bible? Is that what he's trying to say?
And not just, the Hebrew scriptures, like it's all over every...
the Vedic texts.
Of course. So these are spiritual phenomenon. There's no evidence they're from another planet. I mean, I think...
Bring it down to spiritual phenomenon. That's a new one that I've never heard.
That's the that's the lie, that they're from Mars. Look, space, the atmosphere is really well monitored, right? Both for defense reasons, but also because, like, it'd be nice to know when asteroids are coming. And there's no evidence, has never been any evidence that there are lots of these objects, these vehicles coming into our atmosphere from somewhere else, some other planet. There's no evidence of that at all.
I think there is. I think a lot of the, what do you call them, the Air Force have said that they don't know what the hell that is. Some people said that they've seen them.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. The whole thing, dude.
Something like a UFO move around, and it moves like 360, or like in four dimensions, up, down, left, right, side to side. It's not something like a helicopter can do. It's not something that an airplane can do.
That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's a look at that thing, it's rotating.
And it is like something that's like very amazing, right? But we don't know what's out there. We don't know if this might be some sort of technology that they've been trying to perfect, for years. I mean, one of the biggest things now is like jetpacks, right? Like we didn't think that jetpacks were going to be real until recently, that they were testing them out and experimenting with them, but they kind of don't work for over 30 minutes or 15 minutes. They only work for a certain amount of time, and you need to refuel. But when something like a UFO is being talked about, and how it moves, and how it how it moves, it's a weird thing to see, right? Because we humans don't have that technology, so we're trying to find out where it's coming from. But it could be from us, or it could be from another world. We just don't know. But to say that it's a spiritual phenomenon, what does that even mean? Is Jesus in there? Lucifer driving it? I don't know. I just don't know. And to say that it's a spiritual phenomenon, that's something I've never ever heard about. And look, I know some of you are gonna be saying like, yeah, I mean, Tucker's probably right. Who knows? That's your opinion. That's fine. Let me know what you guys think about this. As you guys can understand and hear, it's a hard thing to talk about because of how our world works and how we don't know much about it, right? And the information that we get from our government and what they actually do know, it's unknown, right? So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll end this here. You know what? I'm gonna end this here, guys. I think I've been going on for a little bit too long, and that's it, guys. I'll see you guys for another one. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys for another one. Bye bye. Let me know what you guys think.